Hello. You're on the Make Money News channel. Clemson thrashes Alabama to win 2019 national championship. Clemson's freshman quarterback Trevor Lawrence arrived here as a wild card dealt into a familiar championship hand. Alabama, carrying the glow of its array of championship trophies, hoped the 19-year-old Lawrence might be rattled under pressure, from both the Crimson Tide's pass rushers and the weight of the moment. But Lawrence, statuesque and uncommonly mature, left as a hero with barely a grass stain on his orange and white uniform. Using big plays, capitalizing on Alabama turnovers and riding the poise of Lawrence, Clemson beat Alabama, 44-16, in the college football playoff championship game at Levi's Stadium. It was the fourth year in a row that Alabama and Clemson had met in college football's four-team playoff, and the third time they faced off in the championship game. Clemson, 15-0, has now won 2 of those 3 games, adding to the national title it won at the end of the 2016 season. The Tigers, under coach Dabo Swinney, seem to be the only program able to disrupt Alabama's dynasty, and have started building their own along the way. Alabama still has 5 national championships since 2009, but the last 3 seasons have included 2 championship game losses to Clemson. There's so many great coaches that are so deserving of a moment like this that never get the chance to experience it, Swinney said in an on-field interview with ESPN after the game, and to get to do it once and now to get to do it again, it's a blessing. Alabama coach Nick Saban was gracious in defeat, especially impressed with Lawrence and Clemson's receivers, but turned his analysis inward. If you look at the stats of the game, the yards and all that are fairly equal, he said. But the score, because of turnovers, not finishing drives in the red zone, not getting off the field on third down, giving up explosive plays, the score doesn't indicate anything like that. Editor's Picks. 100 Notable Books of 2018. A Day, a Life. When a medic was killed in Gaza, was it an accident? President Trump's retreat on the environment is affecting communities across America. Lawrence and Clemson were successful on 10 of 15 third downs, gaining 255 yards on those conversions. With so much talent and experience on both squads, much of it destined for the NFL, the rosters were expected to largely cancel each other out. The outcome, not surprisingly, rested largely on the play of the 2 quarterbacks. Lawrence was outstanding, completing 20 of 32 passes for 347 yards, with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa, the Heisman Trophy runner-up and the postseason hero of yesteryear, had just 4 interceptions and 321 pass attempts this season entering Monday's game. But by halftime, he had thrown 2 picks that proved pivotal. His first, on the team's third play, was returned for a touchdown by A.J. Terrell. The second started a Clemson touchdown drive that gave the Tigers a double-digit lead that they never relinquished. Clemson held a 31-16 halftime lead, knowing full well that Alabama had overcome those kinds of deficits in past playoff games. But the Crimson Tide could not convert yards into points or force Lawrence into any game-changing mistakes. Alabama put its defensive focus on slowing Clemson's rushing attack, which often hammered opponents into submission this season while averaging 6.8 yards per rush, highest in the nation. The Alabama defense held Clemson to 27 yards on 10 rushes in the first half. It would have been a winning strategy if Lawrence, and his offensive line, had not played so well. "I'm just proud of how we handled everything," Lawrence said. "And I'm really thankful for our O-line. 0 sacks tonight." Facing a 3rd and 8 early in the third quarter, Lawrence finally was under pressure when he flung the ball toward receiver Justin Ross, wide open because cornerback Savion Smith had fallen to the grass with an injury. Ross caught the ball and ran untouched for a 74-yard touchdown, capping a run of 23 unanswered Clemson points that lifted the Tigers to a 37-16 lead. Smith was taken away on a cart as the Clemson sideline hummed in anticipation of victory. Historically, college football is a place of regular season rivalries, not postseason ones. Teams do not play one another regularly in the postseason, too many schools, too many conferences, too many bowl affiliations. And these times seem an unlikely era for such a dynamic to emerge, now that there are 130 top-level programs in the Football Bowl subdivision. All that makes it the more remarkable that these two teams keep meeting in championship games, as if they are the Warriors and Cavaliers of the NBA. The first, a 45-40 Alabama victory in January 2016, was exhilarating, the teams combining for 40 fourth-quarter points. An unexpected and successful onside kick and a 95-yard kickoff return were the big plays for Alabama's comeback victory. The teams met in the semi-final game last year, with number 4 Alabama dominating number 1 Clemson, 24-6. The Crimson Tide beat Georgia, in overtime, in the championship game. The hero there was Tagovailoa, then a freshman backup quarterback. He came into the game with Alabama trailing 13-0 at the beginning of the second half and threw 3 touchdowns, including the game winner in overtime. Alabama arrived this year as a slight favorite, though few expected any sort of romp. Alabama was the first team since Yale in 1900 to beat every team by at least 20 points during the regular season, but Clemson has built itself into a deep shadow of Alabama's program, following closely behind in college football spotlight. This might be the moment that Clemson fully emerged from it. The game opened as if the fast-forward button had gotten stuck. That was a twist from their previous championship meetings, which built slowly and ended with a flurry of points, like the finale of a fireworks display. This time, they combined for 3 touchdowns in the first 4.5 minutes, and 4 touchdowns in the first 9 minutes. Barely 3 minutes into the second quarter, the teams had combined for 37 points. The entire game felt like a highlight reel. Clemson jumped out first, in the game's second minute, when Terrell intercepted Tagovailoa's short pass intended for Jerry Jeudy and returned it 44 yards for a touchdown. It was just the 5th interception of the season for Tagovailoa, and Terrell carried it untouched toward a sea of pleasantly surprised, orange-clad Clemson fans behind the end zone. Tagovailoa made up for his mistake in a hurry. His next pass, on the next drive, found Jeudy beyond the Clemson defense, a 62-yard touchdown connection that elevated the Crimson-wearing fans in the opposing end zone. Thanks for watching. Click like. Remember to subscribe.